Hey guys, and welcome to another episode of CarX Drift Racing 2 with BrogAutohaus. Today's episode is all about the top 10 greatest cars in the game. This is my opinion, obviously, and I know some of you guys might have different favorites than I do, but over the course of the last 2 years of playing this game, I've really grown to enjoy a handful of certain vehicles. We're going to start it off. We're going to go from 10 all the way up to the number one car and explain kind of why I think these things and what made me decide that. We're going to start off with number 10. That is the Glorious XZ. This is a Nissan 300ZX in real life, and this one's kind of a sleeper car. I'm not going to lie. I didn't have much in mind for this car. I didn't think that it would be that great, but once I upgraded it to Pro Drift 3, this is without an engine swap. The thing has 772 horsepower, which for a Tier 3 car is a lot of power. This thing absolutely rips for Tier 3. If you guys haven't tried it before, certainly give it a shot. This thing is really fun to drive. It's really fast. The engine is peppy, and you really can't go wrong with it. It's got good styling. You know, I have a wide body kit on mine and a couple accessories and stuff, but really cool car. So if you haven't tried it out, give that a shot. All right, we're going to jump over to number 9, which is Tier 1, and it's the OG Hachiroku. Most people, this is one of their first cars that they ever get in the game, and I will say, even at Pro Drift 3, it is still slightly underpowered with the stock motor. That doesn't mean that it's a bad car, but this thing, it shreds, and it's so light and nimble, and you can, put it in places where you want it to go. It's a great car all around. You really can't go wrong with it. So Hachiroku for sure. Number 9, I know that might be too low on the list for some of you. I happen to have the 2-liter inline 4 turbo engine for it, the SR20. And if you do get an engine swap for this thing, it is a monster. So certainly give that a shot if you haven't already. And let me know what you guys think. All right, number 8, we're going to jump to the Specter RS. This is a Nissan S15. Very well-known car in the drifting community, and this thing is really, really fun to drive. Now, I did unlock an engine swap for it for the 3.8-liter V6 twin turbo, but I do still run the stock engine. For some reason, it just behaves better with its stock motor. As you can see, it's only got 745 horsepower for Tier 4, and that's probably right in the ballpark of where most Tier 4 cars are. This thing is fun, it's fast, it's nimble. It's a different style. I don't know. It's just if you drift and people in the drifting community, that the S15 is kind of like the god of drifting, at least at this point right now. There's a lot of people in Formula Drift using S15s, and overall a great car. But the stock motor is really good, so don't worry about the engine swaps if you don't have one. Upgrade it to Pro Drift 3. It's super responsive throttle. Really a fun car all around. Number 7, we're going to jump over to the Apollo. This is a BMW E36. This one I do have the V8 swapped in, but I used it for a long time on its stock engine, and at Pro Drift 3, this thing is really good. It's competitive in the top 32 drift competitions. It's fast enough to keep up with a lot of other cars. I think that's due to the weight and kind of the setup that they are. Again, another notorious drift chassis right now. A ton of guys are running these in pro spec of Formula Drift. So I know I keep comparing it to real life, but this game really does a good job of correlating the two and making sure that everything kind of flows together and functions how it should. And it's pretty realistic and really good. They do a really good job of that with CarX Drift Racing. Number 6, I'm going to jump back to Tier 3 and go to the Interstate. This thing is a big car. It's kind of heavy, and it's different for sure. Definitely not a traditional drift chassis. It's really long, but I got to tell you, when you get this thing to Pro Drift 3 with the stock engine, and by the way, that blower on the top, that's like a hood option, I believe, and with the stock motor in this thing, like you can see, it has 777 horsepower, but there's something about it. The torque at 811, it just it's so fast. It has so much grip because of the extra kind of weight that's on the car in general. And it's just, for sure, try it out. If you don't have the car yet, buy it up. It's really, really fun to drive. So you can't go wrong with that one at all. Great car overall, for sure. Now we're going to jump back to Tier 2, and this is by far my favorite car in Tier 2 overall. This is the Black Fox, and it's, again, one of the extremely fast cars with a bone stock engine. As you can see back there, 853 horsepower for a Tier 2 car is way beyond what any of these other cars can do in stock form. And then you can see it has 973 Newton meters of torque. This thing has almost 1,000 Newton meters of torque, and it's on the stock engine. So this one, I almost ranked it higher within the top 10 list because it's just so fast, so good for what it is and how much it costs in Tier 2. So if you don't have the Huna Fox, certainly get it. I keep calling it the Huna Fox. It's the Black Fox, but you guys know, if you follow Ken Block and Hoonigan and all that, they have some renderings of this car, and they are actually, recently they committed to bringing this thing to real life. So that'll be very, very interesting to see. Can't wait to see Ken Block do some drifting stuff with that. We'll see if they stick to the rear wheel drive platform, but I highly doubt it given his history with his vehicles. We're going to jump back to Tier 3 for the number 4 car, and that's going to be the Horizon GT4. This is the R34 GTR, obviously. Notorious Japanese car, notorious Japanese drift car as well, and it doesn't let you down. I do have the engine swap for this, so I do have the 3.8 liter V6 twin turbo in it. But this is another car where before the engine swaps were even a thing in this game, I was using this car all the time, had plenty of power. It has great torque, so it's got, I think that 857 Newton meters of torque is actually with the engine swap, but super, super fun car. So if you haven't tried the Horizon GT4, it's consistent, it's smooth, it goes right where you want it to go, and it's overall really, really consistent. All right, so now we're in the top 3, guys, and I gotta say, my top 3 cars are all in Tier 5. We're gonna start off with the third favorite Tier 5 car of mine, the Eleganto. This is a Lexus RCF or RC350F. I can't remember the exact name of it. Super, super fast car. Again, with the stock engine putting out 942 horsepower and 972 Newton meters of torque. This thing is fast, and you can put semi-slicks on it, and it still just lights them up in a quick second. Really fun car. I'll be making a tuning video on this very soon. It's one of the newer cars I have that I haven't gotten around to making a tuning video on. So certainly try it out. These things are getting expensive in the game. I will say I'm not a big fan of the price gouging that's going on right now, if I can call it that. I know it's just in-game money, but still it's getting ridiculous. Number 2 is going to be the Space Knight, the Lexus LFA. This thing I literally just purchased, upgraded, and customized over the last 2 weeks or so. I haven't perfected the tune on it yet, but this thing is a monster, and I don't understand why, because it only has 780 horsepower and 768 Newton meters of torque. But there's something about the way it revs and drives that it is so fast, and I'm excited to get this tune kind of dialed in and show you guys that tune video as soon as I feel like it's a good enough tune to be posting on here. Finally, the number 1 car. This has been my favorite for so long, and I believe the other video I made of top 10 greatest cars in the game, this was also my number 1. It's the Spark ZR. This thing, just all around, is a monster. Stock engine, 977 horsepower, 988 Newton meters of torque. Gnarly body kit on this thing that I just got from one of the more recent events, and you just can't go wrong with this thing. It's so smooth, it's so consistent. You can door people like crazy in tandems. It's got such good control when you're off throttle. It doesn't just grip up and lose its shit, its stuff. Sorry, shouldn't be swearing. But this thing's great. You really can't go wrong with it. Certainly invest in the Spark ZR if you haven't already. I think they might have made it a event-only car, or maybe it has been that way for a while. but I've had this thing for so long and it's just the best. So that's going to do it for the top 10 greatest cars in CarX Drift Racing. And hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you have any questions or comments, leave a comment below. Let me know if you want to see a tune for a certain car or a certain video, or tips and tricks, that kind of stuff. I'm happy to make videos for those as well. Otherwise, that's going to do it for today's video. Put your life in drive. We'll see you next time.